Our debate continues here on whether or not photos of a dead bin Laden should have been released. Jan Ting agrees with the president's decision not to release them, but Ed Trzanski was telling us right before the break why you thought it would send a message to people who want to take on the U.S. What message would that be?
Right, and I think it's one that Jan articulated in some part earlier when he said, no matter how long it takes, we'll get you. We have a resolve and a capacity that few do. And you've got to tear down the myth of the picture we see when people look at bin Laden, which is the image he wanted to portray. I think you want to show, here's what happens when you come up against the United States. And I understand this point about, but it'll rile people up. Yes, so will a speech by the Pope and a cartoon in the newspaper or a South Park cartoon and all of that. Forget that.
And that's exactly what I was going to ask Jan about, the cartoon that caused such an uproar worldwide among Muslims several years ago. Were you afraid that a similar uprising would occur if this photograph had been released?
Well, sure. And again, there's nothing to be accomplished by releasing the photo. There's no skepticism about bin Laden's death. There's an insignificant number of doubters out there. Al-Qaeda has admitted he's dead. So unless Al-Qaeda is part of the conspiracy to conceal his death, there's nothing more to prove. The world gets the message. The U.S. will track you down however long it takes. If you're thinking about doing something bad to us, tuck that away in your message box that we're going to get you.
Lynn, I show the photo of him for the same reason I show the people tumbling out of the World Trade Towers. I think you have to know what it is that happened. And it's one thing to say it, the image is powerful.
And of course, we will be having that debate again as the 10th anniversary of September 11th is upon us, because news media had decided to stop showing it after a while, but some people now are calling on the press to revisit it and show it as it happened so that a generation behind it does not forget the impact that those planes hitting the World Trade Centers had. We'll be talking about that, I'm sure, in September. We want to invite you to be part of our conversation as always. So if you have an opinion on anything that we're talking about here, you can email me at lynn@lynndoyle.net. We do want to know if you think photographs of a dead bin Laden should have been released, or if you agree with the president's decision to withhold them. We also want to know about the enhanced interrogation techniques. Experts say that helped them ascertain where bin Laden was, but we want to know if you agree it was acceptable or if you're outraged by that. And how about the U.S.? Is it at more of a risk now that he's dead because there could be those who were inflamed by his death? Or do you think we're safer than ever before in the last 10 years? As I said, email me directly at lynn@lynndoyle.net. As always, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And that whole question of whether or not the U.S. is safer now, I think is one that will continue to be debated. We're asking in the post 9/11 world whether we're really ever going to be safe from these kinds of attacks.
But we are safer. I mean, that's the change. The world is full of dangers. We all agree on that. But this sends that clear message. We wanted to send that message. We've been wanting to send this message for 10 years, and it was finally delivered. We're going to track you down.
And you say it depends, though. At the top of the show, you said that at some level, yes, but not necessarily.
I don't dispute that it's a good thing that we got him. It does send a very powerful message. But let's not take the symbolic nature of this and let it overshadow the practical issue. The fact that he really did not have operational control. Al-Qaeda's changed. And truth be told, Lynn, in this whole issue, the one thing that is actually much more important to our interests right now, Pakistan. How do we now reconcile the issue of support for Pakistan, given the fact that they had to know that he was there 40 miles from their capital, within the shadow of their West Point military academy, in a town full of current and former retired and active military and intelligence professionals?
See, this is why I always love to have you on the show, because you segued me right into my very next topic of debate, because that is one of the questions that we're asking our audience, and you too as well, about Pakistan. We're going to debate this forever, whether someone within the very inner circles would have to have known that he was there.
When Ed says they had to have known, who are they? Someone had to know. I mean, I think the president got it exactly right in saying that bin Laden could only exist there for so long with some sort of outside support. Right. Someone was supporting him. I think it's a stretch to say, well, the whole government of Pakistan was in the tank for bin Laden. I don't think that's true. I think the president of Pakistan is not an enemy of the United States. I think he's a friend of the United States, Zardari. And I think we need to support the elements in the Pakistani government who are potential friends of ours. And I think we need to identify and isolate the elements in the Pakistani government that are hostile.
How the heck do you do that? Well, listen, I mean, if we didn't know that in the last 5 years, how are we going to know it now?
But Jen is largely right. I agree with him right up until the very end as to how you accomplish this. But consider that we have had a problematic relationship with Pakistan for the last 40 years. We didn't want them developing nuclear weapons. They did. We needed more assistance from them in terms of hunting al-Qaeda and Taliban. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. Their president, Zardari, went in the Washington Post and said, listen, my country has lost tens of thousands of civilians, military and intelligence professionals. All true, but at the same time, there are elements of their intelligence, the ISI and the military, who have been playing a double game.
In hindsight, we backed the wrong horses in Pakistan. You know, we supported these military dictatorships because we needed them in the Cold War and the war against terrorism. I mean, there was an alternative. There was always a democratic alternative, and by backing the military dictatorships, those were the forces that opened the door to Sharia law and fundamentalism in Pakistan, all the spread of the madrasas as an educational system. Instead of developing a modern educational system, they allowed the madrasas to develop. That was a flaw in American foreign policy.
No, and this is where this notion that we're somehow responsible for what happened there. Pakistan has been a broken state almost from the start. Consider this, it's 187 million people in a country about twice the size of California, with borders with 6 countries and 2 of them with very long problems. The Pakistani-Indian border is 1,800 miles. The Pakistani-Afghan border is 1,600 miles. And in both cases, you've got deep-seated animuses that play themselves out. And the notion that because we backed the wrong guy, somehow democracy wasn't going to flourish, I think takes too much onto our shoulders and absolves the Pakistani for a problem they have under their own nose.
Now, both of you have mentioned the Pakistani intelligence and the United States intelligence, neither which led to Pakistan in the particular spot where he was eventually located. How concerned do we need to be about the U.S. intelligence that for 10 years we've been looking someplace far removed from where he actually was found?
U.S. intelligence was always working on this problem, and it paid off. I mean, I think this is a tremendous victory for the CIA and for the American intelligence agencies. So the fact that it took 10 years is unfortunate, but the fact that they ultimately found what they were looking for was, I think, a big victory for them.
I agree, and it was led by the CIA, this attack.
Okay, we're going to talk more about that when we continue our discussion here on It's Your Call about the fallout from bin Laden's death. If at any time you want to tell us what you think, you can email me at lynn@lynndoyle.net. We've been sharing some comments with you. We're going to share some more when we come back.